Well, hey, welcome to another Acoustic Alternatives. I'm John Bommarito, live from Grotius. Well, not actually live from Grove Studios in Ypsilanti. This is a studio that has been home to almost all of my podcasts so far. Kind enough to encourage me to do it about a year ago anyway, and then offering me a home to do it. If you're a performancer, that's a good word. I just made up a word, Brian. If you're a performer and you're looking for a place to get out of your garage and not make so much noise around the neighbors, this is a great place to rent and very affordable. Podcasters like myself are using it, and even DJs, there's a spot for you as well. And the podcast for the last 7-8 episodes has been brought to you by David Palmer, is an associate broker realtor serving clients of Detroit and throughout the region. And without David, you wouldn't be seeing what I'm doing. So thank you very much, David Palmer. dcpalmer.com for more information. We'll get a little brief information about him in the middle of the podcast as well. So years of radio, 20 years of non-commercial with some 15 years of commercial in there. I've had an opportunity to interview a gentleman who's in front of me several times over those years. And I don't know if you know, Brian, how much your words have meant to me.
I appreciate that.
Brian
that you even say that. Thank you.
No, it's true. I mean, all the things that you are: songwriter, dad, band leader, grandfather, singer, public speaker, actor, author.
Old idea lost me at grandfather.
But you are. You are. But you're an inspiration to me.
Cut.
No, that's true, though.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, John. I appreciate that.
There's a million things I'd like to hear before you disappear. I'm going to quote you.
Very good.
But before we get into talking, you have a new album to talk about as well. So let's get into a song, and then we'll talk about the album. We'll talk about you. We'll do
bet.
things.
You bet.
What would you like to start with from this new
Let's
album
start
coming
with
out?
a song called Found.
All right, cool.
Here comes the restlessness again. Starts in my fingers, then I'm bursting right out of my skin. My conscience whispers time to go. Born in my heart, it's the only thing I know. And I am just a pin drop in the map of their hometown. Out there chasing melodies with madness all around. And anything worth finding is never easily found. Another day out on the road. Funny how everywhere and nowhere feels like home. I am a shadow of myself, twisting in the wind, longing to be somebody else. Leave it all on stage, then glide through the afterglow. It's counterfeit and candlelit, and people I don't know. The small hours in the smoky haze are for poets and for renegades. But I am just an ordinary no one in the sun, fooling everyone. Here comes the restlessness again. I feel it in my fingers till I'm bursting right out of my skin. My conscience whispers time to rest. My time is served in the quiet of a house arrest. And you could hear a pin drop, a solitary sound. I haven't any strength left to search a love profound. And anything worth finding is never easily found. And anything worth capturing is never easily bound.
Found is new music from Brian Vander from a forthcoming Verve Pipe album, which will be called Threads, due out on November 5th. And Brian's here with me in Grove Studios. Brian, thanks for doing that.
Of course.
You asked your Patreon followers to pick their favorite song. I was like, no, you can't make me pick one.
That was a very telling poll, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think I agreed with the masses on what the single's going to be. You already released it as a video, so we're going to get to that one later. But
Yeah.
I decided, because I am a Patreon patron and you have posted every single song from this forthcoming album for us to hear, and I spent the week listening to the album over and over and over.
I hope in a good way.
In a good way. But I also wanted to point out that one of the things I love about you is your lyrical genius of sorts. And
Oof,
I know, well, genius. Okay,
No, don't backtrack.
I wanted to at least pick a favorite lyric or lyrics from every song then. So for that one, I'm just a pin drop in the map of their hometown, out there chasing melodies with madness all around. Great.
I tell you what, John, that I just got chills because nobody picks that. And that's probably my favorite bit. That was one of those inspired moments. And honestly, Channing Lee, we haven't discussed yet, but Channing Lee very well may have come up with that line with me or on her own, because there was a lot of us throwing this back and forth. But yeah, I appreciate that you like that lyric, because that is my favorite lyric of the song for sure.
It's like some of your other songs. It paints a picture that I can see. It's
Right.
something that I can imagine. It's like a thing. It's not
Right.
just words. It's images
Yeah.
in its own little way.
Yeah.
Which is some of the favorite things I've loved about your music in the past, is I can see the story. 1229 Sheffield, I can see that story every time I hear that song.
Yeah.
I can picture you in it, whether it's really you or not, whether you wrote that about you or not. I can still, because I know you, I can imagine that. But
It's funny. I knew the importance of that when an old friend of mine, it was an old girlfriend, her older brother was a big music buff and turned me on to like Husker Du and the Pixies and all this other stuff. And the new Neil Young record was out, and he was talking about, I forget which song it was, but something that was very descriptive, and it was a movie that played in his mind when he heard the lyric, and I was like, that to me is important, and I've known that, I've seen those movies in my head, and they play differently in everybody's mind, but I knew then that that's what I need to do. That will satisfy me as a songwriter, satisfy my own bucket. Fill my own bucket, so to speak. And that's what I've always tried to do now, is try to make a movie of each song. And if you can do that, you can tell a good story and have the movie play out in people's heads and put a nice melody to it to boot, fantastic.
well, even before I saw the Patreon comments about that song, and when I was listening to it, I thought, it's a forgotten Simon & Garfunkel song, one they didn't know that they wrote, and you wrote it for them. That's what it felt like.
I definitely did write it for Simon & Garfunkel.
Maybe they will reunite and do it just for you.
Well, there was a time when I was going to make a Simon & Garfunkel-esque type album, and that was on it in a song called "Polish the Stone," which didn't make the Verve Pipe record. It was something like. I can do this. No, I can't do it. Dang it. Boy at a train at a station. The 5:45, but it looks like it's running late. With your bags, I don't know. Hey, Mr. Conductor, do me a favor. Tell the engineer I've gotta grab my books and go. And that conductor, he did me the honor. He's been in love once or twice before. Polish the stone, boy. Get down on your knees. Open your heart up. Go on and let it receive. You gotta look to the sunshine. Look for today. Let go of tomorrow. It's just another day. Something like that. Very, very Simon & Garfunkel. Early Simon & Garfunkel.
I hear it.
And there's still room for that somewhere, but that was the idea with Found. I had that for years. I had that for 4 years and was just stuck until I got with Channing. And I sped it up. At one time it was a rock song, and then it was this and that. And Channing just said, here, it's about us playing on the road. And I was like, oh, right, we're on the road and then we're home. And then we're on the road and then we're home. and it just one night we sat and we wrote it, and I think it probably took us an hour, you know, and it was the first thing that we really wrote together, you know, and it was great. It was just a great experience.
And
Anyway.
kind of the first thing that came out from the album as well. There was a video for that. Is out
Yeah,
there.
that was the first thing we recorded and the first thing that came out. Yeah, we made that video too. Yeah.
And not technically at the time a Verve Pipe song because
No, it was going to be a Channing Lee, Brian Vander thing. We were going to do this duet on this side project from the Verve Pipe, besides doing the Verve Pipe stuff. And then when that didn't work out, we just decided we could massage these songs into Verve Pipe, more Verve Pipe sound, which we did. And I'm really happy with it, with the way the album sounds.
well, Simon & Garfunkel's a good segue into me telling you something about my youth. There was
Please.
8-track tape of Simon & Garfunkel's greatest hits was the soundtrack of driving around with my mom in the white Chrysler LeBaron.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you what it was like growing up Vander. Was it kind of like growing up Von Trapp at all? Did you have a musical family? I know your brother obviously was a musician as well, but
The only thing that was Von Trapp about our family was that my mom thought we were every bit as talented as them, and she would take us down to the nursing home or the senior living facility is the correct term now, to play for the old folks and sing for the old folks. And we did that a couple times, and it was awful for us. I mean, for really young kids, you know, because you don't understand. I mean, you know, getting old and people in the wheelchairs and, you know, that kind of thing. So it was a bit frightening. I remember a guy in the front was like trying to direct us, and we were singing like Bringing in the Sheaves and stuff. And it was just like, he was like this really creepy, like Crypt Keeper guy, you know what I mean? But I mean, I'm a kid. I'm 5 years old, 6 years old. So my mom, after a while, used it as a form of punishment, like a warning. Like, if you kids don't know, we're going to go down and sing for, you know. So, yeah, my mom would, yeah, no, please. And we'd straighten right up. So growing up, but I understand that, you know, that 8-track. And I think that we had the greatest hits. And if I remember correctly, it might have been during Cecilia that it would fade out and then and click into the third track.
I wish I could remember, but I know
You
what
know,
you mean.
I'm pretty sure it was during the rhythm break in Cecilia. But isn't that funny that we used to just put up with that?
yes, there's no way I would put up with that now.
Yeah, no way.
It
Can
drives
you
me
imagine that?
It drives me crazy when I'm listening to a digital live album and it's not segued so that the clapping lines up. It's like clap, 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 break,
Yeah.
clap, 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 clap.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Can't you do better than that?
I'm with you 100% on that. But we put up with a lot because it was portable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you were in control. You didn't have to listen to the radio. You could listen to what you wanted to listen to. And so you put an 8-track in, and then you put up with those little things that happen. You know, the guitar solo in Hotel California, you know, fading out and coming back in after a big.
Did you take up singing? You talked about singing at the age of 5. Singing before playing then?
Oh, yeah. I sang before I played. My brother picked up the guitar, my older brother, and he was in bands. And then I wanted to be like him. And so he taught me a couple chords and that kind of thing. And the first song I learned was Glenn Campbell's By the Time I Get to Phoenix, because
Nice.
it's only 2 chords. I mean, it really is, you know. And it's like one finger. By the time I get to Phoenix, you'll be rising, you know.
Yeah.
And I could play that. And then I took my guitar to, you know, in 3rd grade, took my guitar to school, and I would play out at recess. And, you know, I would hold court around the tree, you know, like I was Jesus on the mount with these, you know, with the girls. And I would play, you know, 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock rock, you know, from Happy Days, you know, and all these other songs that were super easy, bluesy type songs to play. And I got hooked from the attention. You know,
I can see that.
for sure.
And it probably was a time in the Verve Pipe's huge success period where you were like afraid to go to the hotel because somebody might be stalking you outside.
Yes, absolutely. So go from that to that, and
Yeah.
you're, you know, I was never really. That's funny because I was never really afraid of the stalkers. You know, when we were out on the road at the height of everything, we looked for attention. You know what I mean? We had people that followed the bus, you know, 6-8 hours, you know,
Thanks.
that kind of thing. And then you go, oh, yeah, just don't mess around with this person.
Yeah. Call the police and then
Call the police. Yeah. You know.
I was recently watching, because I didn't have access to it when it was out. I think HBO had it, but Sonic Highways, the Foo Fighters thing.
Yeah.
And he was visiting from city to city. But I also see in this very well done, we'll call it a TV show, lots of pictures and video of young Dave and young everybody else. Is there stuff like this of you? If you did something like this, a Sonic Highways type show, would there be enough of that old material around to
I think
piece
so.
together?
I mean, when you don't have, I have the same manager, so I'm sure he has some, he has some of that footage. I would never go to the other guys and ask for that kind of footage. I mean, the original members, Brad probably doesn't have anymore. I think I took all of Brad's years ago and got it digitized. So I don't know what exists out there. I'm a little wary of of actually knowing and actually seeing something. I'm still waiting for something to rear its head that I'm like, oh my God, no.
I did that. I don't want to look at that again.
Well, when we, on the Patreon page is a good example. I had the Tonic K's Choice tour, and we had a video camera going all the time. And we would say things and, how a word like retarded now you just don't say, and we've learned these things over the years of how hurtful that is. But it's all over those tapes, and you go, oh my God, we really had no, there was no filter, you know what I mean, back then. And, no knowledge or it was so much ego that you never even thought that this might be offensive. Thank God there was never any N-word or anything like that, because even back then you knew, you're not racist.
Only Richard Pryor can say that. We can't say that.
Right. That's right. But so I would be fearful of, I didn't see the Dave Grohl thing, but I would be fearful of some of the stuff that does exist. But, we were who we were.
Sometimes it's just pictures of him playing, high school aged playing drums or something.
Yeah. And that stuff I've got.
Yeah.
I was talking about like in the height of the fame and on
Right.
the road and the whole thing now. And I don't have much of that. But
A long time ago when we were talking, probably at the Arc, I'm imagining, you were telling me that CDs were more like business cards these days. And now you and I were talking before we started recording that Threads is probably not going to come out on CD, and the vinyl will be really late. And a LinkedIn post that you posted recently also kind of supports your stance on the value of recorded music. So I guess I want you to discuss a little bit of how you feel about what's the value of actually putting together an album anymore. I'm happy that you are. I love the album,
Right.
but like as a band, what purpose does it serve?
there's
anymore?
more value to me than there is, I think, to putting it out. You have these songs and these ideas, and I got to get them out. If I don't get them out, I'm going to be singing them in my head, and it's going to drive me crazy. I have to put it out there, because I've learned years ago that when I have a song and I'm playing it on my own and I'm writing it, or if Shannon and I are writing together, whatever, that song is my song until somebody hears it. And as soon as somebody hears it, that's it. It's not my song anymore. You know what I mean? Their interpretation is what it is. It's a piece of artwork that they've seen or heard. It's no longer mine. And so to be able to make a collection of these songs and then put it out there and say, well, here is, I've satisfied my desire to be creative and be an artist, and now it's your turn to interpret it. That's the reason I put them out now. There really is no other reason. I want to satisfy fans, and I want to be satisfied as a fan of bands that I like by hearing new music, but I can't think of another reason. No clubs or theaters or whatever are chomping at the bit to get the Verve Pipe to come in and play new songs. You know what I mean? I think that's an accurate and fair statement.
They haven't heard the new album yet, though.
Well, that's true, but no radio stations, are again looking for the new Verve Pipe song, which is fine. There's no sour grapes there. I completely understand. But I'm satisfying, like I said, my own desire to create art. And when I think it's going to end, it just doesn't end. I got a call from Andy Reid. Andy was in the band for a while.
Absolutely.
He wants to do a solo album. And I wasn't even thinking about a solo album, but he just texted me today, and I'm thinking, I'm already thinking of songs. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like we're just putting a record out. So I don't think it's ever going to end.
Good.
But again, I'm just satisfying myself. And I love that people love the new record, the Patreon people especially. I love that they love it. I mean, I would be very disappointed if people didn't like it. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But, I really do it to satisfy myself. I don't know if Channing feels the same, but She might.
Another reason to do it is to make us come to the shows to hear our favorite songs from the new album, because there will be people who want to hear the new songs.
Right.
But they need to know them first. Like I can't sit. It's hard for me to convince somebody to come to a show when they don't know any of the music. So, hey, have you heard the new album? Hey.
Right. But I've long since given up on counting on new material to entice people to come to the shows. Like if we're traveling down in Texas, or we're traveling in places we don't normally go, I know why they're coming. They're coming for Colorful and the Freshmen and maybe Photograph. And if they go a little deeper, maybe Cup of Tea, but it's still on Villains, So, I've long since given up on, putting something out and going, I hope people love this. And then they buy a ticket to the show. It's just not the case. It hasn't been the case in years. And that's fine with me. Again,
I hear at least 2 songs that could potentially, depending on the...
I love that. Tell me what they are.
Well, you're going to do one of them. I don't know which one you're doing next. So let's find out which one you're going to do next, and I'll tell you if that's one of them.
Well, I was thinking of doing No One's Gonna Break This Heart.
That is one. And,
okay.
And I wonder if radio would embrace that. I mean, it's a great song. I think the other one in my mind has some potential for...
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, that's...
Well, we'll get to it.
That's fine.
Let's not spoil the fun.
We won't.
But this one I have some comments about after you play. This is a great one. No One's Gonna Break Your Heart Again is from the new Verve Pipe album. Brian Vander here at Grove Studios, and this is Acoustic Alternatives.
Part of you is lost and never found. Love lifts you, then it lets you down. Suffering reality, you feel the weight of gravity. It grabs you and it pulls you to the ground. And all the voices echo in your head, the resolutions you had left for dead. And once again your heart, it breaks. You always make the same mistakes, expecting something different in the end. No one's gonna break this heart again. No one's ever gonna get close again. There's never gonna be a reason to pretend. There's never gonna be another bitter end, until this heart of glass is a heart of stone, buried out there somewhere in the great unknown. A solitary diamond to be left alone. And no one's gonna break this heart. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And everything seems so intertwined. Friends you had in common left behind. The nights are getting longer, the desperation stronger. You're looking for some words, something kind. A part of you that you thought slipped away comes alive to live another day. And when it's unexpected, the heart is resurrected. And here we are meeting half the way. No one's gonna break this heart again. No one's ever gonna get close again. There's never gonna be a reason to pretend. There's never gonna be another bitter end, until this heart of glass is a heart of stone, buried out there somewhere in the great unknown. A solitary diamond to be left alone. And no one's gonna break this heart. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And no one's gonna break this heart again. No one's ever gonna get close again. There's never gonna be a reason to pretend. There's never gonna be another bitter end. And now this heart of glass is a heart of stone, a solitary diamond from the great unknown. It's brighter than the world has ever known. and no one's gonna break this heart.
Man, is that a good song?
Thanks, man.
I want to talk about that song a bit in depth, but I also want to remember to thank my sponsor, because without David, I don't really get to do this anymore. And David Palmer, thanks for signing up to be my sponsor for the last several episodes. If you're a first-time home buyer in the Detroit or Ann Arbor area, this is one of his specialties, helping first-time buyers. If you had a bad experience as your first time and you're looking for your second home, he's definitely the guy for that. He's a music fan. If you want to talk music with him too, totally why he's on board with me here, because he and I are music fans together, and we talk about music a lot. Super nice guy. He's also quite adept at estate sales and downsizing. Brian and I are of the age, you've already lost a parent, and my dad's not doing too great. And I think about, I got that house full of stuff that I grew up in, and what are we going to do with that stuff? There's 4 of us, but like, we don't know what to do with that stuff. That's one of his specialties. He knows what to do with the stuff. He knows when the inevitable happens, what am I going to do? He's got the answer for you. So he's your solution. He'll walk you through the steps, and with your permission, help guide you to manage the third parties whose services you will need. I know David. He's a great guy. dcpalmer.com. Check it out, please. And thank again David Palmer for sponsoring the podcast. Now that song,
DC Palmer. I could write a jingle for DC Palmer.
that would be great. I would appreciate that. All right, some things about that song. First of all,
Yeah.
wow, ouch, it hurts, but it's a great song. It hurts just because I know somebody who's in that situation where they think they can never find love again. And you said, I find it fascinating when people break up and swear they will never love again.
Right. Yeah.
It feels like that, I think. Sometimes.
It always feels like that when you're in it, I think, especially at that moment where you broke up and you're like, "This, why do I do this every time?" But we do. We're as human beings, I think we're destined to find love. This destined to at least try to find love. This song was sadder before Brian Malouf of RCA got a hold of it. I don't know if I told you that or not.
I think it's
before.
on Patreon.
It might be on Patreon, yeah, because there was no "here we are meeting half the way" line. There was none of this other thing. It was just all bad the whole time, and we wanted Brian to mix it. I wanted him to mix it because he's a great mixer. And it was, he called me up. He said, "Listen, I don't know if I can do this. This is just too sad. I need some hope in here." And I said, "Oh, Brian, come on. This same old Brian Malouf, he was our A&R guy at RCA, and he's always telling us, you got to do this, you got to do that." But I realized he was right, and he made it better. And it was the only time I think I'd ever taken Brian Malouf's advice in the years that I had been with RCA. Was this time when I wasn't with RCA, and he was just, a great mixer, and I respected his ear. And so he made the song better. He made the song better, for sure. This was inspired by an Elbow. I think it was an Elbow-esque type of song too. I don't know if you know that band.
I know you're a fan.
Huge fan.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what I said. Oh man, I would love to write something that has that kind of which is very what's his name from Elbow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know what you mean.
Guy. That's his
The guy from Elbow. Guy.
the guy from Elbow.
So we were talking about how, and this actually helps the conversation we had earlier. I already had something I wanted to say about the song, but what we were talking about earlier, how your pictures come from the lyrics. And
Yeah.
how many songs would you say you've written? Let's just interject that.
I think I tried to figure it out once. I think it's around 100 that have been recorded and released. Has to be about that. Yeah.
So let's just say hypothetically,
Yeah.
somebody said, "I want to Mamma Mia you. I want to turn your songs into a musical." If they did that,
Yeah.
this song is the centerpiece. Have you really listened to the arrangement on this song and thought about it in a musical context? Because this really could be from a musical.
I appreciate you say that.
That's not an insult at all, by the way.
I don't take it as an insult. I find it a compliment. I'm a huge musical fan. A buddy and me were working on this project called Waking Beauty. And we've taken a lot of songs off Resurrection, and we've expanded them and made them part of this whole story. I'm 100% on board with that. And I think that this song is a good example of it. I think that every song, I see every song on a stage. I see every song as being a musical. Channing will tell you the same thing because she's a big musical buff too. But for sure.
But when it happens, this is the hit single from the musical. This is the one.
Okay.
This is the one.
I'm
that
going to
stands
take
out.
your word for it.
Well, I mean, just even the way it's arranged is, I mean, obviously the
Yeah.
acoustic performance doesn't lend itself for people to hear what I heard when I heard the full recording.
Right. With the strings and the whole thing and and the background singing and all that stuff. I mean, it really is it's a great recording. Hats off to Joel Ferguson for that, for helping with the recording and engineering and helping produce. And we had some pretty good ideas. This was like, how Jet, Paul McCartney will tell that story about when Jet was recorded. It wasn't a hit song until a radio DJ got a hold of it and edited it into different, sections. And they used to do that. They would move sections around for some reason with the tape. They'd cut the tape, and radio programs would just take the reins and do that. This was one of those things where it wasn't working, and finally it came together. And we had the song done. It was mixed by Brian Malouf. And then I was like, it needs strings. And I got Chris Carmichael to come do strings. And then it had to be remixed anyway. So I'm like, I'm going to sing that beginning over. So I sang the beginning over and changed some things. And but we got it right. I think we got it right. It's like, I'm not comparing it to Born to Run, but Springsteen did the same thing. Just worked on it until he's like, no, this section doesn't work right here. This doesn't work. Until he finally got it right. So.
Speaking of strings, Brad Phillips says hello.
Hi, Brad Phillips.
We were talking yesterday. And then speaking of openings, the lyrics that I find the most meaningful in this song is the very first lines. A part of you is lost and never found. When love lifts you up and it lets you down.
Right.
Suffering reality. You feel the weight of gravity. It grabs you and it pulls you to the ground. Just.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that it moves you in that way because again, you're choosing a lyric that I'm proud of.
Well done. Again, the album is called Threads, comes out November 5th, perhaps only digitally to start, it sounds like.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. I've got 4,000 CDs in my basement, John.
Of your previous...
of previous albums. Yeah, I'm like, do I really want another 4,000 or 5,000 sitting down there?
Can you order 1,000? Can you order a small batch?
Well, yeah, we do. And we can. The price goes up and we're pretty price conscious, But still, I understand people want CDs. So, and I think with Planet Sunday, the last Planet Sunday I did, that proved it. I've sold 600-700 of those CDs, so that's pretty good.
I really like those, by the way. Those are great covers
Thank
albums,
you.
Mostly covers albums. The first one was partial cover, partial you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never intended to do another one, even though we called it Volume 1. I had it in my head that maybe, and I was like, if I'm going to do this, then people that pick this up may not be familiar with my solo stuff, so put a couple of those solo things on it, and that worked. It did work. A lot of people come and say, I didn't know you. I heard Detroit Rock City, and then I went back and said, well, what's this song? I said, oh, that's on that album. Oh, then they go pick up that album. So it worked.
How did you decide what to put on Volume 2? You love so many songs like I do. I don't know that I could pick 12 songs to cover if I was a musician.
Well, I have to find an interesting way to do it. I think the least interesting way that I ended up recording something on that album is The Fall at Your Feet, Crowded House. I think that it's such a great song.
You can't mess that song up.
You can't. And, I found an interesting way to do Black Hole Sun, just switching to the piano and slowing it down. And I thought it was pretty cool. And Mayor of Simpleton, same thing, XTC. And In Your Eyes, too. I haven't heard that version. So I always look for songs that I can reinvent in some way in my own way. And that's the most important thing. And a lot of times it is when we hang out after a show, we go to somebody's house and hang out or whatever. People pass the guitar around and they play a song and you go, oh my God, that's so fun. I haven't heard that song in years. And then you remember that. And the next time you do it, you go, I keep going back to this one song, I'm playing Mayor of Simpleton, which is, it's such a great riff. Never been near a university, And I'm like, oh, I should record that, re-record that. And so that's how I come up with those,
And you tended to pick you and I have very similar musical tastes based on that album, and you tended to pick some of my very favorite songs from those artists. Like Mayor Simpleton would be probably one. If I could sing, I would sing it. You know,
Yeah, it's such a great melody, and he was so, I remember he was I remember if he was fairly dismissive of that particular song. I guess Andy Partridge isn't really dismissive of any of his work, but there are other songs on that record that he loved, having that conversation with him. And we had long conversations about his songs, anyway.
Well, No One's Gonna Break Your Heart Again, heartbreaking. I don't think that's your life. You're happily married as far as I know.
Yeah.
And there's more than one song on this album. I feel that it's kind of like this downer relationship thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty indicative of my writing, though. I try to I want to move you. You know what I mean? I'm speaking to you personally, too.
Oh, thank you.
I do want to move you. You know what I mean? I know you're a fan, and so I'll think, well, will this song move this person or will it move this person? There's a running joke. I won't say who it is, but a running joke in the band that there's somebody who's like, oh, so-and-so's going to hate this, and it's funny, but that's what's thought. It is thought of that. So moving people, when you write about death, even though nobody around you has died, when you write about heartbreak, when you're not particularly heartbroken, those kinds of things are because I want people to appreciate that I can put myself in their position enough to have empathy to write like that. That sounds very egotistical, but it is a way to. It might be an easy way to get a song out. You know what I mean? Like a really difficult song to write is a love song that has not been written. Every love song has been written. I think you and I actually talked about this in the Resurrection interview years ago. It just came back to me when I wrote Someone Like You. I wanted to write a love song. Mm-hmm. And it has to be something unique. And I think there are easier ways to find uniqueness in songs that are heartbreaking songs, because everybody has a different story about heartbreak, but pretty much everybody has the same song about love. Isn't that true?
It's true.
I got to write that down. Are we recording this? Because that was pretty profound.
Well, someone like you
doesn't happen very often.
Someone like you has great lyrics that had never been written before. I mean,
that's nice.
I especially love the McCartney and Lennon line in there. The McCartney wrote.
Got to throw McCartney and Lennon in there.
That was great. And then the times that you've written sad songs. I mean, Another Good Man. I've cried more than once at one of your concerts while you play that song, because it is an absolutely moving song. It's a real life song. It's I know it's real life for you, and it hurts to hear it. And it's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to
everyone.
Everybody, right?
Inevitable. It's funny because there's a good example of just hundreds of sheets of paper that were not crumpled and thrown away. That, you know what I mean? There were so many. That song took forever because it's just too important of a subject. If it's my heart we're talking about, I want to get it exactly right, because it is cathartic. I'm able to say it and sing it, and I'm able to get teary-eyed while I'm singing it because I'm thinking about it. As much as this one, I feel like during the moments where what you were talking about with No One's Gonna Break This Heart Again, the arrangement and the strings come in and everything, and when we're playing it live and we get to that crescendo, I lose it. I can't hold the note because I get choked up like I just did just now. And Shannon and I have talked about it, and you can see there's tears in my eyes, and it doesn't pertain to me.
Yeah.
But you feel the pain of other people, and you go, wow. And the way that the music comes together in a way that it should to really nail the sentiment. I think that we succeeded in that. And when that happens, I get choked up. I also get choked up from gratitude. I'm thankful that I can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I really, it's nice to be able to sit back and go, wow, I had the muse there, and I was able to do something like this. And especially with this album I feel very strongly about, So
you should.
Yeah, thank you.
And where we're going to go next is the hit single that you don't think is a hit single.
Well,
your resistance to the track it surprises me, though.
Listen, I'm not saying it's not a hit single.
It's buried on the album. It should not be track 12 or whatever it is.
Well, listen,
it should be 2.
Listen, it almost did not make the album.
No, you got it too low in the track listing.
Okay, I appreciate that. But I'm telling you this. This album was so close to being or this song was so close to being left off the album. It just didn't seem like it fit with the rest of them. I was stuck on lyrics that I didn't like. And Channing pushed and pushed and pushed and said, we have to do this. And even up until the point where Daryl Thorpe, great mixer, Grammy-winning mixer, he mixed the song. And I got the first mix and I said, holy shit, this guy, this is it. I can't believe I now get it. I get the song because of this guy's mix, which is crazy because I knew all the parts were there. Yeah. He just put them all in the right place at the right level. And I went, yeah, I see what everybody's saying now. So, and now that we've overhyped it.
Did it get placed in a movie? Do I remember reading that right?
No, but the whole joke with Channing was that she said, you know, this belongs in every Drew Barrymore movie from the 90s. You know, I was like, yeah, you're right. That's exactly right.
I think it has potential. All right.
You know, so.
Do it.
Okay. This is an exclusive, by the way. I've never played this.
I'm a stone at the foot of a mountain. I got no love after the fall. It brought me to my knees with all the used to be's. And used to be's mean nothing at all. I was lost like a breath in the wind. All that love come and gone. And the hell I raised in my younger days, all that dark before the dawn. It's all the same. Whatever happened to what's his name? Whatever happened to him? You free your mind when you can leave it all behind. Love will find you again. She came back like a bird in the spring. Song on her little wing. I was on my own, loved to be alone. And then I heard that little bird sing. It's all the same. Whatever happened to what's his name? Whatever happened to him? Free your mind when you can leave it all behind. Love will find you again. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All the same. Whatever happened to what's his name? Whatever happened to him? You free your mind when you can leave it all behind. Love will find you again. Hallelujah.
Love it. Love will find you again. New music from Brian Vander from the forthcoming Verve Pipe album. What's the matter?
Nothing.
Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing because it's ridiculous.
Is this a song your brother doesn't like, just like Happiness is? He doesn't want to play it. It's too
No,
happy.
Bradley actually really loved this song. In fact, when I sent him all the songs, when he rejoined the band, I sent him all the songs. This is one of the ones that he was like, oh, yeah, this is great. I was like, oh,
How does he object to Happiness is and not that then?
it's so funny. Well, because this wasn't written by Donnie.
I get
That's
that.
why.
I get that.
You know, I wrote this for that movie, for that, what's that huge movie?
Oh, yeah.
Star is Born.
Yeah.
They asked me if I would go into the studio in LA and record a bunch of songs, and I recorded 3 or 4 songs, and this was one of them. Yeah, and then submitted, and then they ended up changing the whole vibe of the, it was going to be an alternative rocker. I didn't see the movie. He wasn't an alternative. He was kind of a Americana rocker. Yeah. So it was going to be a 90s rocker who, somebody like me who had their moment and everything. And then, and so I wrote it from my perspective and made it kind of bouncy and fun. And I think I submitted Carry On too, that song that's on Overboard. Anyway.
Well, when people hear the fully produced version, they will understand how I think that.
What are you saying? That my version wasn't a hit?
Oh, no. I'm saying the fully produced version sounds like it belongs in a movie, sounds like it belongs on radio.
I say this all the time. If you can't play something on an acoustic guitar and make it sound great, then the song is lacking.
Correct.
I'm very proud of this song. I'll thank Channing because she's the one that really pushed for it. And the other guys too. They all really liked it. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Well, you seem to embrace the many roles you have to play to be a musician in 2021. I mean, it's not just about writing songs and recording anymore. You've got a lot of different things to do to be successful.
Sure.
Did that come easy to you? Was that something you had to fight with yourself on? I mean, you seem like you're naturally good at it. You're really good at connecting with your fans.
Yeah, I love my fans. I love my fans. That's an odd thing. Who wouldn't love somebody that loved you? You know what I mean?
Get it.
If people really like your stuff, then, it's hard to be mad at somebody who really loves your stuff. But I've gone toe to toe with people that have really loved my stuff and think that, this particular song is not a good song and it shouldn't have made the record, that kind of thing. And we've had those conversations. And sometimes they were right. I wrote a song called Facebook Friend.
I had a question that relates to that very thing. Like, are there songs you regret? And I had a feeling you were going to say that one.
Is the one song that I regret. But I regret that I didn't push Bill Simsick harder on the theme of the song. Bill's from the next generation. And so writing Facebook Friend was about a guy that was murdering people. There was Facebook friends, and he picked his top 10 MySpace friends, and he was going to pick them off one by one.
Yikes.
So that's where it started. And Bill just, I think he liked Facebook, and he liked the whole thing. He's like, oh, it's very catchy. Let's just make it this catchy, fun thing. And that's part about murder and the whole thing. We need to take that out. And all that stuff.
Did he produce Hotel California? People are dying in that song.
That's true. I didn't bring that up.
You should have. Bill, you already know about death.
I'm not blaming Bill. I'm saying that I had people say to me, oh, that song, that's terrible. You shouldn't put that on the record. Because typically I'll send out demos to people to hear. And I did it anyway. But
I think it could have been a standalone single, maybe not on an album, just because it would have been perceived as a novelty song.
Novelty song, yeah, and also I just think that unless you saw it live, you didn't know that I was singing it in a tongue-in-cheek way.
Right, exactly.
But to get back to what your question was about promotion and what you have to do and fans and how I feel about fans is, we had 1.5 million fans in the late 90s that bought Villains. Now it's up to 3 million or something. So, but back then, 1.5 million fans. And then you put out another record, and the expectation is that because you have the machine behind you, you don't really have to do anything. But now you go back and play. Now you go out and play shows and support the record and do interviews and that kind of thing. You don't have to cultivate the connections that you made with these people, with these fans. And so you let them all go, and then they go away, and then they don't come and they don't buy the next record. And you go, oh no. I made a mistake.
How do I get them back?
How do I get them back? And you don't get them back. You get them back over the course of it's been 15, 20 years for me now. That's how you get those fans back. So you have to get good at that kind of thing. And the most important thing you have to be good at is cultivating those connections that you had with fans. And that's what I'm doing. I did that with the lawn chairs thing.
Yeah.
Face to face, played over 800 house concerts, going into people's homes and talking to people like I was a politician. Yeah, honestly, it is a kissing babies and like, oh, I love your place, and oh, what, and let's talk about your house and talk about you and tell me about you, because I'm in your house. Genuinely interested in what they have to say and what their lives are, and sometimes you get story ideas and song ideas from that too, which has happened to me. So there's nothing but advantages to reconnecting and connecting with people for me. Until one of them threatens you, you know what I mean? Or they show up at your house. Yeah. And you're like, well, wait a minute, this isn't part of the deal.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be your lawn chairs and living rooms, not mine.
Not my lawn chair. Yeah. Get out of my lawn chair.
Yeah, please, get out of my lawn chair.
I mentioned in the beginning the word author. You have a book coming. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Oh, man. The book is, it's been years working on it. I started it in 2014. It was started out as a standard autobiography, sorry. And I just realized over the course of rewriting, first it was sour grapes, then it was this, and then it was stuff that nobody would really care about. And then it was stuff that was too cliche that everybody had gone through. And so I decided to go really lean into the concept of struggling with my past, being a Christian, growing up a Christian, and shunning the church, but finding spirituality in the whole thing. And so there's an imaginary. I have imaginary Jesus follow me. He's my imaginary friend, and we have conversations in the book, and this kind of funny conversations. And there are times when he ditches me, and there are times when you look over at the bar and there's Jesus sitting there chatting up somebody, that kind of thing. And then there's an imaginary, my old drill sergeant, who's the exact opposite. So they're kind of like these characters that are on my shoulder that we have these funny philosophical differences and questions and answers and arguments and these kinds of things, but not in this existential way, in a way that anybody can relate to. I think that has gone through, has been in the church and then left the church and decided just to be a good person and what that means. And that's where the book is now. And it's, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's done. It's so close to being done. I have one more rewrite to go through, but the reaction from the people that I've given it to has been phenomenal. I mean, I just have to get up. I want to find a publisher. I don't really want to self-publish it. I'd like to find a publisher. And so I'm in the midst of finding a publisher.
Just as a fan of books that musicians have written, I actually love when they do an audio version and they read it themselves, because I connect with it a lot more.
I would do that. 100%.
The one I didn't enjoy was Chrissie Hynde's biography, read by Patricia Arquette.
Oh, really? That seems
it made no sense.
A bit of a stretch.
It wasn't so good. But everything else I've enjoyed, like Elvis Costello reading me his book. It was very enjoyable to hear his stories. Phil Collins read his book.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen read his book.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I try to make this I will do that. But you just named the people that are iconic, that the masses know them. They're interested in what their start was and what happened and this and that and this and that. For me, it's a different thing. We don't have that kind of success where no one's, rushing to the bookstore to buy, this guy that wrote The Freshman. You don't really know him. And so it has to be really well written. It has to be funny, and to keep people's attention. And I think that's what's going to sell the book, and that's hard to convince a publisher. Little Brown was a huge publisher. We were all set. They were going to publish it. And then he took it to the sales department, the editor, and they said, this guy's got 10,000 Twitter followers. How are we going to sell this? We can't sell this. They don't have enough of a social media presence. And he said, I'm sorry, this is just the way it is. It's the way it is. So, so I lost Little Brown. Very disappointed. But I understand that. That's why the book has to be great. Has to be word of mouth.
It's going to get there.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, man.
All right. So the songs you aren't going to play, we're going to look at some of my favorite lyrics from and talk briefly about those.
Okay.
You adding Channing to the band, by the way, it changes. It almost makes me wonder if it's still not that she's not welcome, but it doesn't sound
100%.
like the Verve Pipe.
100%.
And her contribution on the Freeze is especially non-Verve Pipe. The lyric on that: when you want to run, but you're bearing the weight, the branch-like fingers of a clumsy boy. Once an open sky, there's suddenly a ceiling, and you're forced to feel. And it's such a sad and powerful song, but without her singing it, like I read your comments on Patreon, like, yeah, she needs to be there.
She needs to sing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is I think I wrote most of that song. I mean, we sat and we wrote together. I can't say which lines are mine, but conceptually the whole thing was my concept, but it was I would be in the life and the body of a girl who had suffered, to the hands of Nasser, and the whole gymnastic thing. And I knew that I could never sing it. So from the beginning of the concept of it, I knew that I had to work with Channing on that. And that kicked us in the butt to work together because it really did work. And I couldn't sing it, and huge fights with managers and, my manager, and that this can't be a Verve Pipe song. You have to sing the lead. I said, I can't sing the lead. And too many people like the song. We got to go with Channing singing it. I know you saw the poll on the Patreon thing too. It's like the second most popular favorite song from people, and she's singing it. I agree with you. It doesn't sound Verve Pipe.
No,
it doesn't sound Verve
actually
Pipe.
A lot of the album doesn't sound Verve Pipe, quite honestly.
But I think we had to move. In my opinion, we had to move into an area that we had not been in before, which I feel like we have, and I think we can grow from there. You know what I mean? Selfishly, I wish, I would like to go back and re-record a Villains type of album, but that would be, again, I guess they're all for me. I just want to satisfy these urges, but I also want to satisfy my urge to reach a different place. My kids listen to Imagine Dragons and and a lot of other bands that are popular. I mean, when they listen to rock, they listen to Imagine Dragons, that kind of thing. And I listened to their stuff when my kids listen to it, and I go, yeah, it's pretty sparse, but it's got great melodies, and then it's huge at some points, and then it's small. And that's what I said, well, maybe we can try that, and we'll try that. And that's what we tried here, But I think we have more, I think there's more lyrical substance to what we have here. And that satisfies me all the way around. But it's a fair assessment on your part to say it doesn't sound like Verve Pipe. I mean, I've heard that.
I almost think, new band name or Verve Pipe 2.0 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
a new name, though, you start from scratch and then you don't get booked anywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, you can consider that. But if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, it would have been a terrible move to call it something else. I mean, we just couldn't, we would never have been heard.
You're absolutely right.
How many new bands are heard that are over the age of, where the members are 50 and above?
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Do you know that John Mellencamp and Bruce Springsteen just put out a single together? You should. I mean, if this was 30 years ago, that would be huge, but it's probably not going to get any airplay. It's not bad. It's just like,
Is it true that they did that?
Yeah, there's a new song. John Mellencamp featuring Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Right.
I love those guys.
Right. But like 30 years ago, it would have been huge.
Huge.
Today, not so much. Yeah. All right. Forever Reaching. I think that's the opening track, right?
Yeah.
It's just a thread of crimson that binds us, wrapped in red, always reminds us. Is this in reference to the book, The Crimson Thread?
It's, I think her, she explained, I don't know that book, but she explained to me the Japanese folklore. Is it perhaps the book you're talking about?
I think so.
About how we're all connected through this one.
Channing wrote this one?
She wrote the lyrics, yeah. In fact, I think she wrote everything. I don't think I even contributed to this one other than she played it on the piano one night after we had been working on other things and we were out of ideas, and Quinn was downstairs and we were all, her husband Quinn, and we were, having a beer or something. And then we were wrapping it up and I've got my guitar packed up and she goes, oh, I had this other thing. And she went to the piano and she was just like, this is how it begins. I'm on my mind, try to keep it. But I was like, what? Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's actually, honor this a little bit and see. And it was just great. And I said, well, first of all, we're going to speed it up. We're going to make it a little heavier and we're going to do our thing to it. Yeah, but that's the rest of it. I think it's all Channing. Yeah, that's the latest single too. I think that's
yes.
Yeah.
Track number 2, which my opinion belongs flip-flopped with the song we were just talking about, the hit single, the movie song.
Witching Hour, right?
Witching Hour is number
Yeah.
2. But I in my track listing, Level Finds You Again belongs there. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I'm allowed to have an opinion.
I hear you. I understand the value of track number 2. I understand it. For us, for me, track number 2 a year ago was Witching Hour because it was, people were loving it live. They loved it live. And I said, oh, we have something different, unique here. Let's, people were requesting it. It's like, let's put that second,
Fair enough.
And it all evolves over this album's been a 3-year process, 4 years actually almost.
Sleepwalk in the garden with me under the weight of the secrets we keep. Ooh.
Yeah, that's not me now. Witching Hour is 100% Channing too.
What's the Morse code going on in that? The ... dash.
It is, I believe, ... dash is you and me.
Oh, okay.
And then me and you, I think.
She must have figured that out before
She figured it out. In fact, the first time she ever brought this song up, she said, I have a song I've been working on called ... dash. And I said, that's a terrible song. I don't know that I even want to hear it.
You're so honest.
And we laughed because by the time we actually wrote the music, I wrote a lot of the musical changes. When we finally got into it, I said, remember ... dash? And she goes, this is ... dash. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she sang the ending, the ... dash in the studio. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that.
All right. Save me from the roundabout routine. Lust is dining with the beast, a secret that is kept but often beholden. And I see the word roundabout, and I also see you calling it a prog rock. So I'm going to go, is that a little nod there?
I got to tell you, now I'm always going to think of it that way. I never even made that connection. Bravo, John Bommarito.
High five.
Bravo.
I've done it again. But I love that
That's
lyric
great.
anyway.
Save Me came with just me messing around with the guitar, electric guitar. Rarely ever plugged the electric guitar in. I was just riffing and I was like, oh, this sounds like something. And then wrote Save Me and was really excited about it and excited to do a prog rock thing with the band and, get syncopated drums and bass going and the whole thing. And we're going to rock it live for sure.
Who are your favorite prog rock bands?
I was a big fan of, if you go to like, depends on what we consider prog rock. Remember Marillion, great. All the best freaks are here, I also liked, I considered Camel to be a bit prog rockish. I considered I considered albums to be more prog rock than bands. Like Styx, to me, The Grand Illusion, you know what I mean? I consider that to be prog rock, What is the definition as a musoid? What is the definition of prog rock? It's rock that's,
Prog. Progressive is what prog stands for.
Yeah.
So progressive melodies, progressive time changes.
Oh, we're not talking about Prague, Czechoslovakia.
No.
No, it's a joke.
Ass.
That's a joke. But something that's progressive that takes you in different places within the confines of, of a song.
Yes,
so 6-7 minute songs. Yeah, Rush, that kind of thing. So all of those, when Styx was doing that, Genesis Duke album is a very progressive rock album, and it's conceptual too. So, prog rock and conceptual records, I love. I listened to them all the time when I was a kid. But again, that goes back to the love of Broadway and shows, and musicals, because they are musicals.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Set Me on Fire. This one hurts. It's a Beatles song. Did you write a Beatles song?
No, that's Channing's too, and that is a Beatles song. But
the strings especially make it a Beatles song.
Well, we gave the song to Chris Carmichael. We gave the song to Chris Carmichael, who's our arranger, and I said, "Go crazy, do whatever you want." And he came back with that, and we didn't even know what it was when we got it. We're like, "Wait, what is this?" And then after 2 or 3 listens, we were like, "Oh my God, it's perfect! It's so good." So happy with it. So happy with it. And that was another one that's mostly Channing's. I didn't realize this album's very top heavy with Channing.
Well, maybe she wrote this lyric, but this one got me. Like, oh man, now you're just someone that I sleep next to. The bed is still empty without you.
That's her.
Jesus Christ.
Empty with you.
Oh, with you. Yeah. Sorry, yes.
That's all Channing. Great.
Yes.
Great lines. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Ouch.
You see why this is what a lot of times I have to explain to people. I'm running out of things to say. I mean, honestly, I'm getting older. I've written 100 songs or so, and lyrics are come harder now. So I'm finally ready to collaborate with somebody who has the same idea of what songs should be. They should be lyric driven. They should have a story to them. They should be movies in your head. And that you listen to any of the Channing and Quinn stuff, you go, exactly. You know, she writes a song about a magician's assistant who's going to murder him, you know, and you go, and the stalker song, you know, and from the eyes of a stalker. And I knew that I could count on her to make the stuff better that I was writing. And it's true.
There you go.
It's true.
Glad you brought it on board.
Yeah.
What might have been the lyric, shoulders carry load-bearing weight, head an anchor, forfeit the great unknown, wondering what might have been.
Yeah.
It's also pretty heavy and
That's
like,
all me.
Yeah, that, I mean, my head has felt like an anchor for the last couple of years, like,
Yeah, I
like
know.
weighing me down my
I'm
shoulders.
sure.
Like, oh, that's,
I'm sure.
that's what I felt.
Well,
like
we
for that
all
one.
feel that way. It's about pining for something else and wondering what might have been. And then you're, you know, and then getting more specific with relationships and everything toward the middle and the end of the song, you know, and thinking about what might have been. You know?
A song that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's a gist of that.
A song that features the ghost of Tom Petty. You deserve whatever comes around. You reap what you sow. It happens even though every heart you broke is moving on.
Least favorite on the Patreon page.
That one's
Which
not getting
really-
any love.
Well, I think I think there are other choices. I mean, I like the song. I like the song. I like it better than Love Will Find You Again. I don't think that it has more potential as a catchy hit song, but it just sounds like Tom Petty to me, and I love that.
Cool.
So
Stick with it.
yeah,
And then the end of the world. Time is all that I've ever had, and I would trade it all to have you here tonight.
yeah, it's Channing.
That's
all
I had to guess
Channing.
after our conversation that probably was.
She wrote that entire song. I think I helped her with the bridge musically, but that's Channing's song, and it's great. That's a great album closer too.
And the last song we haven't played yet, I think I could quote the whole song, but the lyric that really jumps out at me, it's feeding the flames as autumn leaves. It's one of those great turn of phrases.
Yeah.
Autumn leaves, autumn leaves. Oh my gosh. You are so damn clever. You wrote that.
Well,
First
this
Fire.
one's me. Yeah, this one's definitely.
This has lots of great lyrics. This is First Fire
Thanks,
Winter. It'll be on the new Verve Pipe album coming out November 5th called Threads.
Oh, I'm way out of tune for this one. Hold on.
But it's not in tune, so we can't do it yet.
Let me take you. Oh, this new capo I bought. I tell you what, I won't say what it is, but it's
Not your favorite?
okay.
The sun is awake with its burning colors, gold and amber, sentimental sky. And we are all alone with our yearning, attention starved to do right. And I don't know why we're so surprised by a fire in the furnace. We paid for the oil that's feeding the flames as autumn leaves. And I don't know how I wasn't aware of the absence of the earnest. When you're alone, a chill to the bone is nothing new. Moon, it is full. Light a candle for the wicked and the weak ones, bound to pull you in. Like the moon rips the tide from the shoreline, we ride that current. And I don't know why we're so surprised by a fire in the furnace. We paid for the oil that's feeding the flames as autumn leaves. And I don't know how I wasn't aware of the absence of the earnest. When you're alone, a chill to the bone is nothing new. is alive with its burning colors bold and fury, a sacrificial fire. And we are all alone with our yearning, attention starved. I don't know why we're so surprised by the first fire of the winter. We paid for the oil that's fading the flames as autumn leaves. And I don't know how I wasn't aware of the absence of the earnest. When you're alone, a chill to the bone is nothing new.
If I could write songs, it would sound something like that. That's a good song, sir.
Thanks, man.
Thanks
Thank
for doing
you.
that.
Very heavily influenced by Michael Stipe and REM and the whole Automatic for the People, which is just a beautiful, beautiful record.
Sure is.
So,
All right.
Thank you for that.
Thanks for your time today. 2 more things.
Yeah.
This one I got to read because it's a lot of things I thought of.
Okay.
You've lived quite a career, sold more than 3 million albums worldwide, toured with Kiss and NXS, been in a movie with Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston, had your songs featured in movies, collaborated with Jeff Daniels on an album, had one of your solo albums, actually 2 of your solo albums produced by the legendary Bill Szymczyk, had a #1 song on the alternative rock charts that also made the top 10 in many other categories. You've done countless house concerts, played huge festivals, released 2 family albums. You've dropped cereal out of your guitar on stage and spent time in the Army. What one moment really stands out to you that makes you smile? It doesn't have to be any of those things. You've had quite the life, though.
I think, oh man, what stands?
This is your life. This feels like the TV show.
I mean, if we're talking about
Oh, how far away you are from the microphone?
If we're talking about personal, I think the moment that Lux and I got married, if we're talking about business-wise and what I've done in my career, I think the thing that stands out most was the first time I played The Freshman and I messed up the lyrics. And I thought, well, nobody's going to like this or whatever. And I had For the Life of Me, I cannot remember. Or I had She Was Touching Her Face line right or whatever. And I had so many people come up afterwards. It was at Rick's Cafe in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And so many people came up and said, what is that song about the girl touching her face? And I knew at that moment, I was like, oh, I've written something that might do something. Like, already. I sang all the lyrics wrong. The story didn't make any sense. And still, it was catching up that I had a bunch of people come up and say, what was that song? What was that song? Whose song is that? And I got to say, that's my song.
10 in 2020, we didn't want to touch our faces anymore.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're right. I got to say, that was probably the most momentous? Yeah, I would say that that's the moment for me where I knew, and I still get chills thinking about that very moment because I knew the light went on and said, I can do this. I can do this for a living.
Thank you for sharing that with me. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And thank you. The final thing is I have to thank you because without you, I don't do what I'm doing anymore. You encouraged me when I was at WHFR and with the interview that we did there that you told your patrons about and how you remember that it was a good interview. I did prepare my ass off for that interview, and I will say yes, I did. But since then, you made me believe in myself because of the way you reacted to that.
Well, you're great, John. Anybody listens to you knows you're great. This is what you were meant to do. Talk about music and ask good questions, and you got a great voice for it. Everything. This is what you were meant to do.
And you don't even know that you helped me keep going even this year when I was trying to make a decision on a job that was being presented to me. Leave this full-time job that has the first living wage you've made in who knows how long to take this part-time job. But your words then came to me as well at a time I needed to know that what I do has value. So,
well,
thank you.
You're welcome. I don't necessarily agree 100%.
You don't know. You don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know
Only
the impact you have on me.
Only you know, but I will say you're welcome, John.
New album is called Threads. Can people pre-order it on the website? At least digitally?
They will. Not yet. It's
Okay.
not ready yet.
It'll be there.
But maybe by the time
You get to Phoenix.
this happens. Yeah. Nice.
Full
Way
circle.
to bring it full circle.
There, we're back. Thanks to David Palmer. David Palmer is the realtor that has been sponsoring this podcast for the last couple months. David Palmer is associated with Realty Experts LLC, 1420 Washington, number 301, Detroit, Michigan, 48226, 313-759-9558, dcpalmer.com. Check him out. He's got many different things he can do for you, but the one that he wants me to tell you about is his realty service. But he's well-rounded in other things. He's got a few other ideas and things he wants to do. So, Brian, what a pleasure. We went a little over the length of time we're supposed to be here. So thanks for letting me chat with you about all the songs on the record.
Of course, man.
Give me the first interview probably for the album.
It is. That is the first interview, and well-deserved that you get it.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
This is the last thing I ever do. I'm proud of it.
All right.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Grove Studios, and we'll be back.